Are you searching for equipment financing for an upcoming equipment purchase, but totally overwhelmed by deciding which lender to use?
I'm Greg Paldino.
I'm Jesse Klauke.
Here are 7 questions you should ask your equipment lender.
So Greg, probably one of the most common questions comes up about rate. What is the going rate for a machine loan?
A good benchmark or guideline that we usually tell people to reference is Wall Street Journal prime rate. That's what housing lenders will use, and the same would be said for equipment or small business loans in general. That's usually a good indicator of what a competitive rate might look like and what you should be paying.
A couple other things to keep in mind is if you have really strong credit or if the collateral is really strong, sometimes you can actually get a discount off of prime. And then also definitely make sure you're calculating a true APR like a car loan or a mortgage, because a lot of lenders can be pretty deceptive. They may say it's a rate, but you want to recalculate and make sure you're getting a true interest rate.
Another good question to ask is, what are your credit requirements? I think that's a great question to ask early on in the process because it'll save you a lot of time. It'll save the person on the other end a lot of time.
A couple things to keep in mind, it's really common startup businesses wondering if they can apply for financing. They certainly can. I'd say instead of 100% financing, usually startup businesses are gonna need 20% down and then really strong personal credit if they don't have any business credit. Another common one is a lot of lenders require previous business credit. Not all do. So finding a lender that, just like us, maybe they can use a mortgage instead of a previous business loan for comparable credit.
Shameless plug, we've got the $500,000 app only limit, which means up to $500,000, just one credit application. But if it exceeds that, so in some cases we'll do whole automation line that's $750,000, $1 million. And in that case, we'll need to see more business financials. But in most cases, if you're just upgrading, say one CNC or, say on the woodworking side, you're buying an edge bander, you should be able to find that application only lender that can give you an approval just based on your business and or personal credit. Third question to ask, and this comes up a lot, is can you finance additional costs? So a lot of people will ask us about things like shipping, things like rigging. That's something that you'll definitely want to ask your lender that you're working with to see if they can include some of those additional costs in the financing.
Finding someone that specializes in manufacturing equipment, if they understand the collateral, they can include a lot more soft costs. Everything you just mentioned, even tooling credits, a lot of times they may not have age restrictions, different things that specific industry-focused lender can do allows that. And you can actually get up to a pretty high percentage of soft costs. So another common question that comes up is, what are the traditional terms? Be it term length, how long can it go? Is it a lease or a loan? The age of the collateral, if it's used, could play a factor into that. There should be a lot of flexibility. The one thing is with challenge credit, the terms may be less favorable, so a larger down payment or needing to pay money up front. But if you have strong credit, traditionally you should be able to go 60 to 84 months, 100% financing without a down payment, and include the soft costs like you mentioned earlier.
Another thing for terms that can be a little tricky is, are there any advance payments?
And sometimes that's not applied towards the principal reduction. It can be extra money you have to pay out front. So you want to be really careful with some of the lenders. They have a little deceptive practices sometimes, being careful what's being asked for, and sometimes getting a second opinion if you don't think it's the most favorable terms. So another common question that comes up is, what type of contract is it? Is it a term loan? Is it a capital lease? Is it an operating lease? Is it equipment finance agreement? There are a lot of different terms out there and a lot of different structures, but the most important thing to keep in mind is who has ownership of the equipment at the onset. Most common nowadays would be a loan or a finance agreement where you're actually the owner of that equipment from day one. There's just a lien against it while you're paying off that contract. But I would definitely recommend, talking to that specific lender and then seeing which is best for your business.
Yeah, and to make it even more confusing is the term dollar buyout lease. Dollar buyout lease is a lot of what people are familiar with over the years they were written. That's essentially evolved into the equipment finance agreement, right? So That's, for all intensive purposes, more of that loan type product. Although it's called a lease, that dollar is the transfer of ownership. So Jesse, can you share a little bit more about what progress payments are?
Not all lenders can do it. They can't make progress payments. What it allows is paying different deposits on your behalf. So especially with lead times or also with custom built machinery, where different payments are due. So 10% deposit with the order, another 30% progress payment when it goes into production. A lot of different payments are needed before the equipment even ships to the customer. And so the ability to pay that.
A huge benefit is you can have the machine essentially pay for itself, right? It generates revenue each month, and you use that revenue to pay for the machine.
So Greg, how should someone determine if a lender is reputable?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So this is probably one that you wouldn't actually ask your lender, like, hey, are you reputable? What I'd say is, do your homework, do your research. Most of our customers do that before reaching out. I'm sure if you're looking into lenders, you might be considering doing the same. I mean, the first place would be to check Google, right? Just Google the company, check them out. You can ask for references. I don't think a lot of people have asked us for references. Maybe some of their customers are, hey, can you give me the name of someone that you've helped that is buying a similar piece of equipment to me, right? If they're happy to open up their books and connect you with some of their customers, then that's probably a good sign.
And then also asking what other OEMs or dealers do they work with? Who do they have relationships with? Are they really connected in the space?
Yeah, that's a good bonus question. Yeah, it's like, hey, can you give me a couple names of the maybe preferred vendors that you work with? People don't always think like to start with financing, but that source can a lot of times lead you to maybe help find the right equipment as well.
I hope you found these tips helpful and it helps you secure the most competitive equipment financing.
If you have any additional questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. In the description, you can also request a quote for your next machine purchase. And if you're interested in more content on financing manufacturing equipment, check out some of our other videos.